The date is August 18th, 2025, and we are still tracking Hurricane Erin as it continues to move its way through the western Atlantic just off the coast of the Bahamas now, and that'll be tracking off to the north and eventually to the east. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. It is a Category 4 hurricane, and it has sustained winds at about 140 miles per hour. Millibar is down to about 135, so still a very dangerous storm, but at least it's staying away from land masses. As it heads off to the north by Wednesday, it's down to about a Category 3, and then Thursday about a Category 2, but the wind field will actually expand quite a bit. By the time it gets off the coast of New England, it's barely holding on to Category 2 strength, and then eventually will head right out to sea, not touching any land masses. So like I said, the wind field for the storm will be expanding as it heads north. That is typical of hurricanes. As the storm gets closer to North Carolina and Bermuda, there could be some tropical storm wind gusts that expand well beyond the size of the storm there, and even going up into New England as well. Places like Nantucket, Cape Cod could see some stronger wind gusts, and then the storm will be headed out to sea, and minimal impacts expected after that. So let's take a closer look here at North Carolina. The white color is the area where we could see tropical storm winds and wind gusts just off the coast there, heading into Wednesday evening and then early Thursday morning. Best chance of getting those tropical storm winds will be early Thursday, but it doesn't last very long, and the storm heads out to sea pretty quickly, but we could be still watching some big waves and also the rip currents along the shoreline. Now let's also get a closer look at New England here, specifically the islands and then Cape Cod. They stick out quite a bit, so you will be getting in on some of those stronger wind gusts in that area if you live there. And as we head into early Friday morning, that's probably the best chance of those stronger wind gusts. But as we head into Friday evening, things clear out nicely and actually looking at some nice weather heading into the weekend for New England. Outside of that, we also have the wave heights, which will be on the higher side of things. It's a big storm. As it moves north, it will maintain a lot of that energy in the water, but fortunately, still most of it's out to sea. We could see upwards of 10-foot waves for parts of the Outer Banks, maybe 15, maybe a little bit higher than that in spots. And then also heading into New England, we could also see some 10-foot waves off the coast of Cape Cod as well. So this will be churning up the water still as it heads up the East Coast, but at least the more significant impacts still well out to sea, and nothing we would see in terms of any devastating things along the coastline. So definitely good news as this powerful storm continues to remain off of the coastline. And we have those risks for rip currents up and down the East Coast. They will be high risks multiple days in a row here for a good portion of the East Coast. Not every single location that I've drawn out here will have the high risk today or tomorrow, but throughout the week there could be some risks along the coastline. So please be mindful of that if you plan on being at the beaches. There could be some issues on the shoreline, so those big waves causing dangerous rip currents and also the wind not helping as well. So just stay out of the water if you can. At least things will be cooling down as the storm passes. And here's the weather setup if you're wondering why Erin will be heading out to sea. Well, we got a couple of things going on. We have two high pressure systems, strong highs on the east and west side of the storm. And in between, we also have a cold front that'll be working its way through the northeast and New England, and that will be eventually pushing the storm right out to sea. So the storm will try to go northward, but bump into that cold front and then basically right on the northern side of that high that's just east of Bermuda and then head over towards Europe. So here's a model product, precipitable water. It basically measures the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, and it picks up on Erin quite well, but also the dry air to the north. Notice how the storm system goes right out to sea as that cold front encounters the storm and that dry air filters in behind it. Of course, the job of hurricanes is to transfer all that heat to the north. So all that heat in the tropics that it picks up from the ocean and it transports it northward as a way to kind of transfer energy. So that's the job of a tropical system, and that's exactly what Erin's doing. So before we move on to talk about the next tropical system that's developing in the Atlantic, I want to talk about our new weather app, Storm Chance. Storm Chance is designed to be a weather app that features everything you'd get in a normal weather app, but then we take it a step further by giving you hyper-local weather updates and where we talk about impactful weather that could impact you. So that is the idea of the app, so that you're more focused on things that affect your everyday life. And of course, we talk about the bigger storm systems as well, but you'll get updates on your local area as much as we can daily whenever there's impactful weather on the way. So let's take a look at that next tropical system. It has a 60% chance of development. It's out in the eastern Atlantic right now. It's a wave off of Africa, but that's some good odds right there of getting a storm to develop. However, it doesn't look like the ingredients are going to come together as well as Erin. So let's take a look at that storm system with the precipitable water model here. You can see it developing, but notice how it impacts parts of Puerto Rico, potentially the Dominican and Haiti, and then Cuba. That won't allow the storm to develop quite as well as Erin. If it does take a more southerly track, that's where you could see the storm potentially evolve into a hurricane. For now, maybe a tropical storm. That's all we're looking at. And yes, it does head close to Florida as well. So here's a look at the wind model as the storm system will be developing. Notice how Erin has those strong winds in that green color. This storm system barely gets to orange, which is about tropical storm strength. And you can see as it impacts parts of Puerto Rico, parts of the islands there, Dominican, Haiti, and then heads towards Florida, barely holding together tropical storm strength. But we have to keep a close eye on it, as if it heads farther to the south or a bit farther to the north, it'll be over open waters again. I do think if it takes that southerly track, which is a possibility. It doesn't have a cone yet, as it's not a tropical system, but if it does trend a bit more south, it'll be over more open waters. We'll head probably into the Gulf, and that could potentially be a stronger hurricane if it does take that track. So here are the Atlantic storm names we've dealt with so far. The next tropical system will be Fernand, which I believe is a French name. Probably didn't pronounce it right, but that will be the next one. And you can see we have several more storms to go that form in the Atlantic, but so far we've gotten through 5. That's Erin, which has been the strongest one in the Atlantic so far this season, but still a long way to go as we have more tropical systems develop. So moving on to other parts of the country, we still have some severe weather going on. And tomorrow we have a chance of some severe storms from parts of the southern plains all the way up to Ohio and Michigan, although these storms lowest on the scale, so not expected to be very impactful. So here's a look at those storms as they progress in the forecast over the next several hours and into tomorrow. You can see that line making its way through parts of the plains and into the Midwest, but nothing too substantial. There's not a lot of development there, so we're not looking at a big complex of storms causing destructive winds or a tornado outbreak or anything like that, but there certainly will be some heavy rain in those areas, in some places that do need the rain. There's also the heat that has been pretty extreme across parts of the Southwest and going into the plains as well. We've got a couple of days of hot weather here, so definitely be mindful, keep hydrated and stay cool in these areas, as we do have a couple of hot days and some more hot days in the forecast over the next week or so. So taking things ahead here, we have a few things to watch. We're still going to be tracking Erin as it moves north. There also is that second tropical system. We'll see if it develops into anything. Still some uncertainty, but 60% odds are pretty high, so we have to keep a close eye on it. We also have the heat building out west and another round of severe storms, but for the most part, the storms have been pretty tame, but still some things to watch as we head over the next several days. Thanks for watching. This is meteorologist AJ Waterman with Storm Chance.